In this video, we're going to discuss the target behavior. So I've actually created a whole shooting range, shooting gallery to work with here in this one because there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. And I kind of wanted to show the range of possibilities with this behavior. It's kind of neat. So we have kind of a standard setup where you just have some targets. And if you shoot it, you hear a sound, the target flips, I scored a point, and it resets after a few seconds. You can also have it kind of moving back and forth. Do the same thing. So kind of basic setup there. This is a little bit more involved. I did a little bit more to this. So these three dummies here are set up at different locations and different distances. So this one only takes one shot and scores 1 point. This one is a little closer, but it takes 2 shots and scores 2 points. Right? Or this one's very close, but it takes 3 shots and scores 3 points. So you can see where you can play around with that and just say, okay, well, if I only have so many seconds, maybe it's smarter to shoot the one that is only worth 1 point but resets faster than maybe the one that takes 2 shots but is slower to reset, or 3 shots and is much slower to reset. You can see where I'm going with that. There's different ways that you can kind of change this around to make it strategic. You can also set up a target to deduct points. So you can see the little red target there. If I shoot that, then I lose a point. Or I can trigger something to happen if I hit a target. So if I hit the one in the very back, yay! So that has a lot of great uses. Like we're using a shooting range, right? But let's imagine that we are in, I don't know, a place where I have to shoot a lock, but the lock is on the outside of the door and there's a window and I can shoot the lock through the window and bust it, and then that unlocks the door and I can get through. Just as one example of something that you could trigger based off of a target. So it doesn't have to be a shooting range. It can be really anything that you're going to use as a target. And then lastly, we have a mode for spin. This one, I didn't really have a really great object to demonstrate this, and I didn't really have a lot of use cases for it. I'm just making it spin. Otherwise, it operates pretty much the same as the other ones do. Okay. So let's take a look and see how each one of these is set up. We'll start with the basic ones. We have the hit text, which is just what's going to be displayed if I hit the target. We have the target type, which we have the options static, moving, and spinning. We saw all three types. Obviously, the one I'm pointing to now is static. It just flips temporarily and then flips back, resets itself. You also have moving, which is going to be moving back and forth along a particular axis. Now, which axis is kind of depending on the model, right? You would expect this one to move along the X because that's the way it's pointing. And indeed, it is moving 220 units along the X-axis. However, some models I've noticed that, and I think this is just really the model orientation, it doesn't work that way. I had to apply 200 units to the Z-axis to get it to go in the same direction. So if I applied it to the X, it would move forward and backward rather than side to side. But that is an option. You could also move it along the Y-axis up and down. So there's different options as far as moving. Let's see here. We have the movement speed. That's pretty obvious. Just how fast is it moving? We have the target reset. That's in seconds. So how quickly is it going to reset? We have the target points. So for this, you do need a HUD element that is named my point tally. So you just got to create a global variable in the ordinary HUD, just like I did in here. Let me just play this again. You can see it at the top right where I just added a label and the my tally variable, and then it just knows to increment that by 1 or decrement it by 1 if I hit a decrement target. Okay. Let's see here. So where were we? Oh yeah. So points, this how many points am I allotted for hitting that target? Points issuance, am I adding points or am I deducting points? The user global, that's already defined. Like you can call it whatever you want to. This is just there as a kind of a placeholder so you can understand this is what you're supposed to put there. You can call it my point tally. You can call it my grandmother. It doesn't really matter what you call it as long as you define it as a global and then have that displayed on the HUD so that you can see the points being scored. Okay. And then lastly, we have 4 sound slots. So again, always look at the description here to discern which sound slot does what. But for sound 0, that's when the target gets hit. We also could have a sound for when it resets, a separate sound for when it resets. We could have a sound for when it's moving. So I could have made like a little mechanical hum back and forth if I wanted. And then lastly, we have a hit trigger sound. So this really only applies in the event that you're using the target as a trigger, like I'm doing in this case in the back here. So let's zoom back here. So you can see I'm using these particles for the fireworks, and those are all logic linked to that target. That target is set up as a trigger. So right here, yes, it's a trigger. And so all these are, hidden by default. And when that's triggered, it causes them to kick off. And then you can see I've got the fireworks sound. That's what you heard when the fireworks kicked off. All right. So that's it for target behavior. There's so much you can do with this. I'm having a ton of fun just going around and, coming up with different targeting scenarios to work with on this. But I thought this would be an interesting one to look at. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned anything new, I would appreciate you clicking the like button down below. That really helps me out. If you're new here or if you just haven't subscribed yet, now's the time to do so. I'd love to have you stick around. And lastly, if you'd like a notification for whenever new videos are posted, just click the bell icon. That'll send you a notification when new videos are available for you. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.